What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video at JDH Aquatics, where we do anything aquariums related in my apartment while I'm in college. So if you guys didn't know, I have a TikTok account where I make similar content, but obviously in a much shorter version. If you guys want to go check it out, the link is in my bio. But I recently posted a video where I said that a 20-gallon would be a great starter for a beginner in the reefing hobby with a few simple pieces of equipment. And in the comments, I got a little bit of backlash from people saying that a 20-gallon or a Nano aquarium is a no-no for beginners in the reefing hobby. I've been in this reefing hobby for like 10 plus years, and I know I look kind of young, but I've been in this hobby since I was like in 7th grade. So what is that, like 12 or 13? And the first saltwater tank that I set up with corals was a 20-gallon standard aquarium tank. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and buy yourself a 3-gallon Pico as your first reef tank. And I know that the general rule in the reefing hobby, for as long as I've known, is that bigger tanks are generally easier to keep. However, in this video, I want to talk about some of the reasons why I think that nano tanks are just a little bit better than larger tanks, and some of the reasons why I think they're easier to take care of. I have kept nano tanks pretty much my whole reefing hobby career, if that's what you want to call it. The largest tank that I had was my SCA 65-gallon tank, which I had just last year. So I would say probably 90 to 95% of the tanks that I've had over the past 10 years have been somewhere in the 20 to 40-gallon range. Since we might have some new beginners here, let's talk about really what the size is for a nano-sized aquarium. In my opinion, anything 5 gallons and under is typically a Pico tank. Anything between 6 to about 30 gallons is my nano size range. Anything over 40 gallons in my head is going to be just a normal sized aquarium. Now, just because I grew up learning the reefing hobby through these nano sized aquariums doesn't mean that everyone starting out is going to be starting out with a nano tank. However, if you are starting out in the reefing hobby and you don't know what you want to get yet, here are some key things that I've picked up over the years in running these nano tanks in comparison to some larger aquariums such as the 65-gallon SCA aquarium that I had. Since we've been talking about these sizes, let's go ahead and stick with a 65-gallon versus the 20-gallon that everyone says is not a good start for a beginner. Now, one of the most important and neglected things in this reefing hobby is going to be water changes. And talking about a 25% water change, which is a very general amount of water that you would change doing a water change, 25% of a 65-gallon aquarium is roughly 16 gallons. Now, of course, with rock displacement, you don't really have the full 65 gallons in your setup. So we'll just go ahead and say that you've got about maybe 10 gallons of water that you're going to change out of your 65-gallon tank. Compare that to the 20-gallon. Even if you had the full volume of water in there, 25% of 20 is only 5 gallons. So when you do a water change on a 20-gallon, you're barely filling up a Home Depot 5-gallon size bucket. In my opinion, with nano tanks, I think you're much more likely to do maintenance as well as water changes on that tank versus a larger one. When I had my 65-gallon reef tank with a sump, it was much more daunting to do a water change versus this 20-gallon all-in-one system that literally takes minutes to do a water change. Now, I might be reaching here, but in a larger tank where parameter swings are to happen less likely, wouldn't that make the new reefing hobbyists a little bit less on their game? Versus a nano tank where things are known to happen faster, you'd be a little bit more attentive and likely to test your water and check things more frequently, correct? I think I gotta turn on my studio light because it's getting really dark in here. Okay, yeah, I think that's okay. Moving on to my second point, and this one's gonna be very big, especially for someone just getting into the hobby, getting their feet wet, and they don't know if they wanna spend a whole lot of money on this hobby yet. And that is, with a smaller aquarium, it's just a fact that the amount of equipment you're gonna have and the price of that equipment is gonna be much cheaper for a nano tank versus a larger tank. Obviously, there's loopholes to this. You could buy used equipment, or you could throw black boxes over your tank to have a budget setup. But if we're talking name brand products, it's gonna be cheaper to, say, light a 20-gallon versus that 65. The other thing is that if you're already doing frequent water changes and doing nutrient export on your 20-gallon, you typically don't need a skimmer, which is something you will most likely put on a larger tank like the 65. And the last tip of why I think nanos might be better than larger tanks is that nano aquariums are easier to fill up than larger tanks. This can be a blessing or a curse, because for someone like me, I tend to fill up my tanks really quick just because I be buying coral all the time. But if you're someone that, again, wants to just dip their toes into the hobby and buy maybe a small piece or two of coral and not spend a whole lot, you can really fill up a nano tank quite easily and cost effective. I hope this video didn't come off as like a rant or anything. That's not what I'm trying to do. And a couple of the comments in that TikTok video that I was talking about said that I just promoted nano tanks because I'm sponsored. As much as I would love to be sponsored by Innovative Marine or FujiCube, I am not sponsored. I'm simply just trying to promote these nano tanks because, again, this is what I grew up with. We're doing this aquarium hobby apartment living style, so nano tanks are all I can really set up in my apartment. And I know a lot of you guys aren't able to set up a 50-gallon tank as your first time. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to just not be in the hobby. Again, I agree that larger tanks typically are easier to keep than nano-sized aquariums. However, I still stand with my statement that a 20-gallon is still a manageable size tank for a beginner. If you guys disagree with me, don't worry, I still love you. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think is a good first size aquarium for a beginner. The 20-gallon LPS tank will be set up soon, so if you guys want to see that, then be sure to subscribe and tag along. I'm going to try and set this up, minimal equipment, and show you guys that it is easy and manageable to have a 20-gallon reef tank. And this one will have LPS in it. It's much easier if you do softies, but we are going to try to do some LPS, so stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you guys want to check out my socials, then click on the link in my bio. With all that being said, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.